Hi there, welcome to Digital Companion. This is Naveen, your host, and in this podcast, I would be narrating to you a story. Being Ram, authored by me. This story would be podcasted in episodes, and this is episode 1. So enjoy. Disclaimer: this story does not resemble anyone living or dead, or to any mythological figures, it is purely a fictional narration. Episode 1. It was usual routine in Allahabad Session Court. The judge was going through argument papers of the case, while both parties stood their ground anticipating their versions to be held right. It was judgment day today. This would be a landmark judgment as the court proceeding for this divorce case have been completed in a record time of 3 months. The judge looked up after going through the papers. On the one side stood Sarita with her 2 children, Sara, aged 9, Arav, aged 5. Sarita had filed this divorce case. She does not want to live with Ramanujan anymore. She was in her mid-30s. She was an educated and confident young mother. She was of whitish complexion with a good height for an Indian woman. She stood in the court with a confidence and anger. Her anger was evident from her eyes and her tossing of hair locks, which comes between her angry eyes. She constantly stared at Ramanujan with her angry eyes, wanting to levy 1,000 accusations. But being in court, she stood lip-locked. On the other hand, Ramanujan stood submissively staring towards his shoes. He was also in mid-30s, but few of his hair and beard had grayed. He was very thin and lanky. He stood there with both his hands crossed at the backside. His shoulder was dropping. His head always dropped down. He lifted his head only to answer the judge. He looked desperate and weak. His eyes were completely blank, as though someone was heartbroken or in disbelief of his current situation. He, not for once, glanced towards Sarita or his kids. So the judge proceeded. Within quotes, "So Mrs. Sarita, have you thought hard on it? Don't you want to give this marriage second chance? At least you should think of your children," inquired the judge. Within quotes, "Your Honor, I can't take it anymore. This person has let me down in every moment of my married life. He has failed as a son, as a husband, as a father, and above all, as a man. He is nothing but a failure. I have ruined my life marrying him. Now I don't want my children's life to be affected. So sir, please help me raise my children normally," pleaded Sarita with tears in her angry eyes. Meanwhile, Ramanujan stood without flinching. It raised doubts in many people's mind who were present there about his character. Normally, people would have reacted fiercely to such accusations, even though they had committed the crime. Not Ramanujan. Judge too noticed it. Within quotes, "Do you have to say anything in your defense, Mr. Ramanujan?" asked the judge. Ramanujan's lawyer was about to get up to present his defense. But before that, Rama shook his head in denial and said, within quotes, "I have nothing more to say." The judge noted it. Within quotes, "Have two of you finally decided to part ways?" asked the judge. The judge looked towards Sarita. Within quotes, "Yes, my lord," she replied emphatically. But Rama stood silently staring downwards as though he wanted to dig the ground and get buried. The judge felt offended a bit for not getting any answer. Within quotes, "Haven't you heard me?" asked the judge with a raised voice. Rama's lawyer nudged him to answer, fearing the judge on anger. Rama whispered in a very low voice, "No, sir." The judge got agitated a bit with Rama's rude behavior but said nothing. Within quotes, "Now that this court is convinced as per arguments in the course of trial that Mrs. Sarita and Mr. Ramanujan can't live together anymore. Thus, this court accepts their plea for divorce," concluded the judge. Sarita felt relieved and thanked her God and the judge million times in her heart. Rama stood still, not a muscle moved in him. Within quotes, "Now pending before the courts is the plea for alumni and the children's custody, explained the judge. Within quotes, what does your client demand as alumni? Asked the judge to the counsel of Sarita. The lawyer of Sarita handed over the details of Rama's assets and bank balance and added, Your Honor, my client should get half of it. Within quotes, she has given valuable 14 years of her life to this marriage. Now it is not easy for her to go out and find a job straight away, said the lawyer. Sarita stood with her head held high as a divorce plea was accepted. This gave her confidence to get her demand met. But Rama stood as a prop, alien to the court proceedings, as though he has lost all his hope. The judge noted in agreement. Within quotes, does your client agree to the alumni demand of Mrs. Sarita? Asked the judge to the counsel of Ramanujan. Within quotes, no, my lordship, this is outrageous demand. Every single penny of my client's asset is earned by himself and not gifted or inherited by him. After all, my lord, he has to look after his 2 kids, Rama's lawyer argued. Within quotes, objection, Your Honor, custody of children is yet to be decided by the court, objected Sarita's lawyer. The judge again nodded in agreement. Within quotes, what do you say, Mr. Ramanujan? Asked the judge. Ramanujan raised his head, glanced towards Sarita, then turning towards the judge, said in a grief-stricken low voice, within quotes, Sir, I agree to Sarita's demand. His voice choked as he was having difficulty speaking. Inside, he was broken and in his heart cried, but his tears have dried hard. His eyes have become emotionless, so none could figure out what he felt. With much effort, he again uttered, within quotes, she could even ask more than that, sir. Everyone in the court was taken aback by his offer, even the judge. Within quotes, do you wish to ask more? The judge asked Sarita. Confident and stubborn, Sarita replied in a best form, within quotes, Sir, I just asked for what this man owes me. I don't want any grants from him. Sir, please give me my rightful and nothing else. The judge was impressed by this young woman for her character and clarity of thought. So the judge read out the details of the assets and amount of cash to be given to Sarita. The issue of alumni was settled. Now came up before the court the plea for children's custody. So the judge ordered that both children, Arav and Sara, to be sent to his chamber along with one family member from each side. As it is a norm, where judge speaks with the children as with whom he or she wishes to live. Such conversation is done in absence of parents so that the children could talk candidly. As no one had accompanied Rama, thus judge asked Rama's lawyer to be present there. So the court proceedings were halted momentarily and required people left for judge's chamber. Following the judge, rest remained at their position. Sarita looked calm and confident as ever, but for the first time in last 3 months of his court appearances, Rama looked fragile. He was constantly rubbing his palm together behind his back as they were sweating. He was anticipating that at least Sarita would show some leniency in children's custody, as he did not oppose her divorce and alumni plea. Deep in his heart, he wished that at worst she would claim custody of their son Arav and would allow their daughter Sara to stay with him. Sarita too knows how attached was Ramanujan to Sara. Everyone stood up as judge came back, with all others. Once again the court proceedings began. The judge was going through the papers. He turned towards Sarita and asked, within quotes, Your submission, Mrs. Sarita? Within quotes, Your Honor, this man incapable of raising children. He is selfish, mean, self-centered. He neither cares for other people's wishes and feelings. He could not prove to be a good son as his parent disowned him. His brother doesn't want to see his face, his relative wish worse for him. I, being his wife, have debauched him. Even in this hour of crisis, no one is standing by him. No one accompanied him to the court ever. How could he be a good father? Being a mother, I can't leave my children to suffer with him, savaged Savita with tears in her eyes, as though she was waiting for this moment. Her anger, her pain, her humiliation and suffering for the years has come to the fore. This moment gave her some solace. Rama listened to all with his head down, as though approving all accusations levied against him. Within courts, so what do you want to say about it? Asked judge turning towards Rama and his lawyer. Within courts, it's unfair to levy such charges against my client. My client has always performed his obligation well. Took care of them. Ramanujan is capable of looking after his children, my lord. Even Mrs. Sarita can't deny that fact. His love and affection for his children, especially Sara. My client has agreed to all that Miss Sarita pleaded in the court. So, my honor, custody of children should be given to my client, argued Rama's lawyer. The judge faced Rama with discontent and asked, "You have nothing to say on this?" Rama lifted his head, looked into Judge's eyes with all his effort, just end up whispering within quotes, "Sara, Sara." His voice choked in his neck and his head hanged again. Within quotes, in the light of evidence, this court finds Mr. Ramanujan is unfit for society. There is no question of custody of children being granted to him. Custody of both children, Arav and Sara, is granted to Mrs. Sarita, said the judge. Within quotes, "Mercy, my lord, at least grant Sara's custody to my client," intervened Rama's lawyer. Within quotes, "No, it can't be. Ask your client to confirm the norms of society. Such reckless, self-centered, selfish people will jeopardize children's future. He neither has capabilities or love to raise his children. If I would have power in my hand, I would have punished him for spoiling 3 lives. If he cannot look after his children, then why he had given birth to them?" refuted the judge in a very angry voice. At this precise moment, Rama lifted his hand with an impulsive jerk and with his blank, emotionless, broad eyes stared directly into the judge's eyes. Something snapped inside Rama. Thousands of demons inside him raised their heads. His love and commitment for his wife and children been questioned. Rama's reaction was so swift and sudden that everyone in the court was taken aback, including the judge and Sarita. The moment of truth has come. Sarita, who has been so aggressive and angered till now, was contemplating in her mind. Has she gone too far? Even the judge recounted his words. None said a word, not even Rama. Ramanujan realized that his instinctive reaction and its response, but he had realized that this plea would have fallen on a deaf ears and his emotion will never be understood by anyone. So he shut his eyes, lowered his head, killing the demons inside him, stood to be hanged till death. For what it was for Rama, as Sara was her last reason to live. The judge got some semblance of truth from this one act of Rama. Being a judge, he has witnessed many divorce cases with its varied emotions and expressions, mostly fake. Thus, the judge too programmed to look after emotion quotient. But Rama's case was unique. The judge realized that there was more to this story than what has been presented before him. But his hands were tied as he had to follow the norms. The judge composed himself, lowered his voice with a soothing tone, said within quotes, Ramanujan, I have taken a view of your daughter, Sara. Even she wants to live with Sarita. Let it be, but you can meet both your children once a week at a public place. Judge, then turning towards Sarita and his lawyer, is that good for you, Miss Sarita? asked the judge in a commanding and stern voice. Sarita, who has been very vocal and aggressive till now, just meekly shook her head in agreement. Within quotes, Judge detailed judgment to be delivered later, said the judge, hurriedly left for his chamber with uneasiness in his mind. Rama lifted his head, glanced towards innocent and lovely face of Sara for a brief moment, then towards his son, and then glanced towards Sarita. He wished them well and bade them final goodbye in his heart without disturbing his lips. Rama turned around and left the court, not even spoke to his lawyer.